Okay, so we installed the distribution point. Everything seems to be working, but now it's time to look at some extra options in terms of the distribution point. And the options I want to show you now are related to network. So the first one, if I open here the configuration manager, so I'm already in the administration pane. So I'm going to the distribution point node, and we have here the server we just installed. And I'm going to the properties, and here we can see that on the first page we have some options. The first one is brachcache. So if you don't know what brachcache is, if you bring the documentation, the fundamentals concept for content management in configuration manager, and we have here on the side on this article brachcache. So it tells you a little bit of story about a brachcache. That is a technology that, well, it's almost 10 years old, maybe even more. So the whole idea is to save bandwidth. So if a client already download a content and there is another client on the same subnet, you don't need to go all the way to the configuration manager server or the other distribution point to download the same content. You can download that content from that local peer. And it's not just the fact that enable here and that's it done. We also need to enable this on the configuration manager client. So if I cancel here and then go into the client settings, we are going to have more information about the client settings later. But if I just open the client settings here, and if we go to client settings, we can see here that we can configure brachcache. Yes, no, if you're going to enable, what's the percentage of the disk. So those are the information that we can actually do. So if we need enable to this server side and also on the client side, now we can actually save a lot of bandwidth. So imagine that you download 3 gig now, and now another peer, another computer on the same network will download another 3 gig through the one link. Yeah, it's better to have them the brachcache enable. So here another support for Windows features, a networking configuration manager, and here again we have the brachcache, and then it tells a little bit more about the brachcache, how we can configure, and so on and so forth. So this is the first one in terms of network that we can actually enable. So if I go back to the distribution point, let's see other options that what we have available to us. So the second one here is adjust the download speed to use ledbat, or the whole idea is we are going to give a priority for the other applications and less priority for configuration manager. So if there is 100% of the network utilization, we reduce or we adapt the bandwidth used by configuration manager. But if there is only, let's say, 10% of the bandwidth using, we can now use 90% of the bandwidth. This is a server side or sender side configuration. So this is where we are enabling this on the distribution point. But the client already, so if it's a new server or new client, Windows 10, Windows Server 2016 with hotfix or 2019 plus, then we can have this option already enabled. Here on the documentation, if I go back here to the content management, so the fundamentals concept, we have here Windows ledbat. And it does explain a little bit what it does, how we configure and so on. But the whole idea is there is this announcement. So announcing transport feature and performance advanced in full create update Windows 10 and Windows Server 2016. And it does go through the whole concept of the ledbat in the one and LAN. So for you to get a kind of more information what exactly it's doing for you. And there is, of course, another one. Let's talk about ledbat. on the Microsoft community and does explain a little bit more about this whole concept. For 2016, you need to have a hotfix. You can see here there is a couple of hotfix that is required for the 2016 server, but it's automatically out of the box enable as a client for 2010 and Windows 10, and Windows Server 2019 plus. But Configuration Manager, of course, I just want to bring up one of the hot fixes that we haven't installed for 2111. And if you can see here, some of the issues that fix, one of those is the ledbat. So if you're going to use this functionality, make sure to download the hotfix on your environment. And let me just minimize. Now, features of outside Configuration Manager can be enabled through here. So we can enable the brachcache on the server, and then later on we need to enable on the client, and the ledbat is only on the server side. But there is more than that. We can use the built-in features in Configuration Manager to reduce the bandwidth used between the connection between the site server and the distribution point. And this is here on the shadow. So here I can say, for example, let's say between working hours, I can reduce the bandwidth. So for example, Monday from 8 to 5, or Monday to Friday, I want only open the connectivity for high priority. So what it basically means is, we are going to see this later on, each package has its priority. I'm only going to copy data from the site server to the distribution point between Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 at high priority. If it's not high priority, it will be in the queue to be able to use later on. But I also can say, no, I should not be able to copy data between those hours. So an application you create in Configuration Manager will not arrive in a distribution point until after these working hours. Okay, I will leave here for all priorities. But on top of that, what you can do is to use rate limits. Then basically this is a between a specific period of the time, I can limit the bandwidth, for example, from 8 to 5 again, I want to use only 25% of the bandwidth that's available to me. So imagine that I now have, for example, the schedule, let's put here a high priority between working hours, but I only use 25% of that bandwidth. If my bandwidth is 100 meg, I'm going to use maximum of 25 meg. Outside those working hours, I will be using 100%. And during the working hours, I'm going to use 25% only for high priority, because if it's a medium or low priority, I will not be using anyway. It has to be outside business hours. Also, you can do here in rate limit a pulse mode that you're going to send blocks of data, let's say 3 kilobytes every 5 seconds. So you send, wait 5 seconds, send, wait 5 seconds, send again. So you're actually leaving some space for other technologies or for other applications to use the network. So I'm not going to use any of those settings, but they are available to you if you want to use. Also, if you go back to the documentation, so now I'm going here to the back to the fundamentals, and we have here network bandwidth and how we are going to be able to manage the network bandwidth and connectivity. So, and there is here on the install and configure distribution points in Configuration Manager, configure distribution point. If I scroll down, you're going to see here what I just talked about. That is a little bit more. Shadow and rate limit. So this will give you some information about when to use, how to use, and why. And the last one I want to talk about is content validation. So it has nothing to do with network, but it does use network a little bit. We are going to see shortly why. So imagine that you copy the data to a distribution point. You want to make sure that data is always correct. If there was a virus, for example, it will change. Configuration manager will then copy data again. Or if the antivirus change, for example, the content or virus changing the content, the antivirus did something, you want to copy or to have always the latest and the correct version. So what you can do here is to enable the content validation to run on a specific date and time and have a priority. So what's going to happen is the distribution point is going to validate, or the configuration manager service / configuration manager distribution point will validate, okay, this information I have on the server, and this is the information I have on the client. So a hash. If the hash does not match, configuration manager will send that file back. It's not network, but like I said, it has some network connectivity going on. If you are enabling this option during working hours, it may be the wrong moment. Maybe you need to enable this at out of business hours where no one is using. And also there is a performance as well. So there are all those options we can have, not just for network, to reduce the network utilization, but also to make sure all the data that should be there is also there, because if it's not there, we can download the wrong data, and then we need to download the data again after being validated. So this is some of the features we can use in terms of configuration manager to help us improve the network. But in any case, there are a lot more to learn. And if you like this video, leave a like, share with your friends, co-workers. If you really enjoyed, why not subscribe if you have not done already? And if you have any questions, leave your comments on the comment section below. And if you are using asking questions, for example, use the hashtag #AskRaphael, so it's easy for me to find out. But in any case, I hope to see you on the next video. Take care.